Welcome to the show, everybody. This podcast you're about to listen to is very demure. Welcome to the 1 hour, one brain cell podcast. And I'm going to play the open right now.
You're just gonna sit here and stare at me until I say something, or
No, my AirPods fell out. My AirPod fell out of my ear, and so there was a slight delay, and that's why.
We're having such technical issues today.
It's Monday. What else can we expect? Yeah. Welcome to Monday, everybody. Where I couldn't get my headphones to work because I didn't have the volume up, and then I got AirPods falling out of my ears. Truly a catastrophe already. But
this whole show could have been an email. This meeting could have been an email.
Yes, it could have. Welcome to the show, everybody. We are 1 hour, one brain cell. I am joined by my co-host Jordan, who I believe is still in the process of trying to find a good cowboy hat. Are you going to update the people this week?
I'm exploring options. I don't know if I have the financial means to sink into a proper cowboy hat at this time, but there is a somewhat local shop that does custom ones, and I've been toying with the idea, but I'm like, I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna wait, and it'll speak to me. It'll call to me like the Green Goblin mask, like if I need to get one. So I am joined by my co-host Richie, who is maybe, if not the most immediate doom and gloom person about baseball that I have ever met. Why don't you explain to the people about what happened?
Yeah, it's very true. Okay, so first of all, what do I do with my phone? I don't have my phone on me. All right, my phone has disappeared. I have no idea where it is.
Yet another technical issue.
But that's okay. We'll do the show without it. I don't need it. Nobody's texting me anyway, so we're good. Yeah. So I'm a Diamondbacks fan. Jordan is a Padres fan. Both of our teams are currently contending for the National League West division title with the Dodgers, as well as playoff spot in general on the wild card.
Yeah, we're spicy right now. We're spicy.
Mm-hmm. The two best teams in Major League Baseball after since the start of July. And anyway, so I was watching the Arizona Diamondbacks game on Sunday, and I'm going to scroll back because I need to read the messages as okay, here we go. Hang on. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Okay, so so the Diamondbacks had won like 18 out of 21 games. They won 6 in a row. They were absolutely buzzing, playing great baseball, had the most runs scored in all of Major League Baseball, which is like shocking to me. But anyway, so I was watching the game on Sunday. They were playing the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays won the first 2 games of the series. Diamondbacks haven't lost a series in like a month and a half at least. They've won like 10 consecutive series. Absolutely buzzing. So I text Jordan yesterday and I say, D-backs are being no hit today. LOL. It's Jover. They aren't making the playoffs.
Well, like one series loss in the last, I don't know how long, and it's immediately over and they're not making the playoffs. I texted him back and I went, brother, I'm not even a D-backs fan, but you need to check your attitude. You're like 3.5 games up on the wild card. Just chill. Like, your team made the World Series last season. Chill.
This is true. Here's the thing. As I told you, like I like to henny penny things sometimes because and lower my expectation intentionally. So that way when good things happen, I'm pleasantly surprised and I'm happy instead of being like, oh, we're going to make the World Series again this year. We're going to make the World Series again this year. And then they don't. Then I'm disappointed and sad.
You know,
So
I
that's,
had to look up what that phrase meant because I had never heard it. And I was like, is this local dialect or are you 75? Where did that come from? I had to Google it. I was like, what does henny penny
what?
mean? I
You've never
did.
heard of that?
No, that can't be real.
This is from your kid. Ask your parents about this, okay? You need to ask Rob and Lisa. I know they listen to the show, and when they hear that you had no idea what this is, they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you that you're crazy because this is a thing. This is like I learned about this when I was a kid. Yeah,
Brother,
it's like a children's.
I would put money on them not knowing. I simply would.
It's like a children's book, dude. Come on.
No, I would if I don't know it, they wouldn't know it. Like they didn't read me this particular children's book.
It's a book. It's a book called Henny Penny. Yeah.
I will bet you a can of Red Bull right now that those two don't know what you're talking about.
I will. Okay. Deal.
Okay, take on it. Yep.
That's wild. That is completely wild.
I don't think that's wild at all. I was like, is this regional dialect? What's happened here? It's like, you know, some people, I don't know if this is maybe just Ohio, but this is in my family, but it's like you call a sofa a Davenport.
Okay.
Right. Exactly. So I was like, did it come from that? Where was this born? Apparently it's a thing. But I had to Google it physically.
Yeah. So this off to a great start already. Truly. Anyway, back on track. Yeah, so I was crying wolf over here. I was henny penning because the Diamondbacks had got swept by the barely 500 Tampa Bay Rays and their crappy ass stadium, which shouldn't even exist anymore, that nobody goes to games down there. Atrocious, stupid. Everything that could go wrong went wrong during that series. So I'm off the Diamondbacks bandwagon for the moment. And Ketel Marte's hurt. He's out for at least 10 days. He got put on the injured list today. Christian Walker's still hurt. Gabriel Moreno's hurt. Like, truly, just... So, yeah, I'm off the bandwagon until the middle of September. So
Tatis is hurt. We have no Yu Darvish. We lost 2 of 3 to the dumpster fire Rockies, but, like, we're still spicy. We're still cooking. Really, to put it in perspective, the fact that both of our teams and the Dodgers are all within striking distance of winning the NL West, and it's not even a race among any of the other teams anymore. I think the Giants are like, what, 11 games back or something crazy. Mm-hmm. That like 3 of the best teams in baseball, in the National League overall, reside in the NL West is just like unfortunate because you're never going to escape the shadow of the Dodgers. But it is funny to see them perennially lose and get beaten by a team. It was like, that was my favorite thing that came out of last year's World Series run. It was like, who would win, $1 billion payroll or the power of friendship? And the Diamondbacks really did us all a favor last year.
A connected team is a dangerous team, as Torey Lovello told us in the playoffs last year.
And Kershaw is dog water, so that's fine. Thank goodness we're done with that era.
True. I saw there was a meme going around today, and it was that dragon meme where it was like the really evil, mean-looking cool dragon on the left and like the derpy dragon on the right.
Yeah, it was like the 3 heads of the Hydra, where one of them is just stupid looking. Yeah.
And it was regular season and playoffs, and I immediately thought I'd play in Kershaw.
It's true. Yeah, I'm glad we're done with that.
All right. Anyway, there's our baseball talk, ladies and gentlemen.
We don't talk about it that much on the podcast, but just know that we are following. So if that's a thing that you follow and you want more of it, let us know.
Yeah, this is what. Yeah, we have to fit the baseball in because we're back into race week, everybody. So on the next show, we get to talk about Formula One again. As long as they don't come for us, because apparently they're cracking down on content creators using the name Formula One or F1 in their like content. It's like, come on. You idiots.
I think that's silly. It's free publicity for your brand. As long as it's not like implying that you are associated with Formula One or trying to distribute. It's whatever whatever the tag is. It's like may not use or distribute without express written permission of Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Just whatever. As long as you're not violating any of those rules and trying to put out content and say that you made it and profit off of it, just let the people get excited about your sport and your thing.
Exactly. I agree. All right, here's what we got coming up on the show, folks. We have deep cleans, car washes. We're going to start our countdown to Julien Baker coming up in September. And of course, we're going to end the show with our Letterboxd rankings. And Jordan and I are going to have a knockdown, drag out fight over a movie that came out 6 years ago. So
that's on par. That's so on par for us. It's like we get into a verbal fist fight every week over a movie that came out at least 5 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. That's true. We do that like once a month. That's like our calling card at this point.
Pretty much.
Yep. All right. Let's start off on a positive note. I wanted to start with this because this is true. As both of us live by ourselves, so we have our own apartments, right? So you texted me this week and you tweeted out about it too. And I put it in the doc, and all I said was the therapeutic nature of the deep clean. So can you please take us inside Jordan's brain for just a moment and describe the feeling that was cracking open the Red Bull and getting to deep clean your apartment?
There's a little backstory involved in this, which is that I decided that I'm not doing any more caffeine for a little while unless it's an emergency scenario. I have been, this is a weird thing, but I've been saving the cans of Red Bull that I've drank over the last, I don't know, months. And I've made a little tower in my apartment now. And it just got to me the other day that I was like, I think it's a normal amount. Like I'm not having one every day or even one every couple of days, but just seeing the sheer collection of that, like maybe I should slow down a little bit. So I decided to go cold turkey on the caffeine. And so I hadn't had one in a little over a week, and I decided that I was going to need to deep clean my apartment because usually I'm pretty good about, and I think you're the same way, but like we're pretty good about just picking up after ourselves on a day-to-day basis. So it really doesn't get bad. It's not like there's stuff everywhere or food on the counter or anything like that. But it just got to the point where I was like, this needs to be done. I don't really remember the last time that I vacuumed. And this was what pushed me over the line, is I was in my kitchen, I was making dinner, and I, on at least 5 separate occasions, stepped directly full foot, ball of the foot, directly onto a large crumb that I didn't remember getting there or putting on the floor or anything like that. And it fully sent me over the edge. And I was like, this needs to be taken care of tomorrow. Because it was like 7 p.m. or something. I'm not going to do it that night. I knew I had the day off work. So I woke up the next morning, cracked open a Red Bull, put my headphones on, and just like put a good playlist on, and just got lost in the sauce. And I looked at the clock, and it was like 2.5 hours later, and my entire apartment was clean, and I had lit a candle. I was like, wow, that was actually kind of necessary. And now I feel a lot better, and I'm not stepping on any crumbs, but it does. Every once in a while, you got to just kind of snap and get it clean and get a good reset.
It's true. I do the same thing. I'd consider my apartment. I think there's a difference between messy and dirty. My apartment is kind of messy. Like I have so much junk strewn everywhere.
Okay, but let me say, because I get where you're coming from. And I'm the same way. Are you the kind of person that like it's messy, but you know where stuff is if you need to go find it?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's fine and like perfectly acceptable. Like I'm not the kind of person that's going to put everything back in the cabinet in its place every single time I use it. Like I might leave the crackers out on the counter, but they're in the box. They're not loose, you know,
Yeah,
and I know where they are. If I have to go, I might leave the peanut butter out, but I know where it is.
Exactly. Cause like I have so many, I moved in this apartment in 2022. It is 2 years later, and I still have boxes of crap that I need to throw away. They're just sitting in the corner of like where my kitchen table is that I never use, but it's like out of the way, so it doesn't necessarily bother me or anybody who would want to who wants to come over here, right? And so it's like out of the way, so it's not bothersome at
Sure.
all. And that's how I tend to keep things. As long as it's not bothersome, then we're good. Because like you said, I will generally try and clean up my mess right after I make it for the most part, as we saw last week on the show.
I was gonna say, like, we had a little chocolate rain last week on the show. If you weren't listening.
So I will do it like once a month. I'll go and I will. So I have like vinyl floors in my apartment, so I don't have to do a lot of vacuuming. So I can just take the old Swiffer and get the Swiffering around, and I'll do that like once a month or so, and then that's perfect. That's perfectly fine. It's great. You pop. I like to pop a record on my record player and have that play while I'm cleaning. Top notch.
Sure. And it just like makes you feel better about it afterward. You're like, yes, now when I come home, I have a clean apartment and I don't have to worry about it.
And it's a bit of a workout too. Like to get that Swiffer going. Like it's kind of, I can't really do it here.
Oh
But
yeah.
like,
No, I know you got to exert a little downward pressure into that thing. Because
yeah,
my last apartment was vinyl floors everywhere. This one is carpet, so it's different. I also used to have to clean my last apartment like once a week, and it was always on Sundays because I had so many bugs in that apartment that like if I didn't clean it, they would just appear in all the corners.
right.
And it used to freak me out so bad. I was like, well, if I don't vacuum on Sunday, they're going to show up during the week. So I have to keep that clean. Thankfully, I have less of a problem with that here.
Good.
So, but I can't wait for it to be cold so that those jokers go back outside where they belong, because they don't want to be around the houses in the winter. They go underground and you stay there.
Right.
Better
Right.
for all of us.
Right. All right. We got one more thing that you had texted me about this week that I want to bring up. We've discussed on the show before my dislike of car washes. I believe that I never get my car washed. I think it's just capitalism gone awry.
I know we've talked about it because I disagree with you on this point, but like I can't make you. It's your car.
Yeah, exactly. So why is it, Jordan, that every time you get your car washed, it seems to be a curse and a scourge upon the skies over Bloomington?
Yeah, it's a plague on my house, and I don't know what I did or who I angered, but it's not cool anymore. So can we cut this out? Because every time I wash my car, and I get like I live in the Midwest, and it does rain here. That's a thing that happens somewhat regularly, which is why I don't stress about it. And I'm like, I'll just get it done the next time it looks like there's a break in the forecast. Like I'm not gonna clean it every time it rains because it's just gonna do it again a couple days later. So I was looking for a break in the forecast, and this week I looked and it was supposed to be sunny or at least like no precipitation for like 10 days. Okay, fully out the Apple weather. Can't really trust the Apple weather as we've learned, but fully out the Apple weather forecast of either sunny or, cloudy, but not rain. It didn't have the little thunderbolt or the storm cloud or anything like that. And it was a little dirty from having rained. And so I was like, I'm gonna go get it cleaned. I will tell you, I have now become a devotee of the self-service car wash. So I don't do you can't do the one with the bristles if you have a dark car because it'll swirl your paint. You can't do the one with the bristles. But out here they have touchless, which is really nice, and it'll like spray the underside of your car from the salt and things in the winter. But I've recently become a devotee of the self-service car wash because you can do it yourself and target the problem areas and make sure that you're getting what needs to be done. So if it's just real quick, like you could just kind of spray it and go. And it's actually cheaper than having the machine wash do it. So I take the time and effort and I go and I clean my car nicely and I dry it off by hand nicely. I was feeling great, pulled it in. Maybe 2 hours later, pouring rain, bright out, sunny out, pouring rain. And I was just sitting in my room and I could hear something outside. And I just sat there and I was like, That better not be rain. Better not be rain. Open the curtains. Pouring, dumping rain on my nice new fresh car. And it's happened 2 or 3 times in the past. I went and looked at the radar, the weather radar, and there's just one blip, one dot of rain straight over where I live. I don't know who I made angry. I would get it if there was a line of storms coming and it was just gonna happen. Okay, that's my bad. That's my fault. But the one isolated little pop-up of blue precipitation directly over where I live, that's a menace to society and my health and safety personally. So maybe I'm just never gonna wash my car again and hope that it doesn't rain. I don't know.
Yes, welcome to the never wash your car family.
But I feel like this is a thing that happens because it used to happen to my parents all the time in Arizona, and as you know, it doesn't rain that often in Arizona, but lo and behold, every time they would wash their cars, it would rain. I think this is just a common curse, and if enough people wash their cars, it summons the rain god or something. So I don't know. We collectively just need to stop doing that.
Like we said in our text, we need to create some sort of anti-curse for it to stop raining after washing cars.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need to do.
Yep.
That's what we need to do.
We need to manifest, sit in a circle, light candles, anti-curse. Yeah.
An anti-curse, exactly. Hey, and speaking of anti-curse, how about this for a transition, ladies and gentlemen? We are about a month away from our Julien Baker show, so I thought it would be great to do like a little bit of a countdown. Oh, look at that! Got the shirt.
There you go. Yeah,
nice. I like it. A little bit of a countdown to our JB experience, and I found something on the Julien Baker Reddit which I thought would be cool for our show, and so we're gonna do. I think we're gonna do this like every week, counting up to the show, and we'll do a couple of these categories every week. What they did is they took this like little like bunch of categories, and somebody posted in the JB Reddit, and so you get to pick a song that kind of fits each category. Some of them tougher than others. I got home from the show last night and I was like trying to prep for this and do my research and trying to figure it out. And it's so hard. I was doing this at like midnight last night. I was like, this is very, very tough. So I hope you did your research. Did you do your research accordingly?
I haven't looked at this chart at all, but I also know that I'm going to overthink all of my answers. So really, if I had prepped, it wouldn't make a difference anyway.
All right.
Let's set some ground rules here. Are we including we're not including the Boy Genius projects in this, right? We're only including solo work.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Are we including the one-off singles, like the Spotify singles or the ones that didn't make an album? Okay. We're including all those. Mm-hmm. Okay. Are we including the deep cuts that are like, that's too much work to track down what is and what isn't? But I was thinking like, the covers or stuff that's really only gone on, like I was more so thinking like Decorated Lawns, like stuff that's unreleased but has gone on.
I'd say I'd count Decorated Lawns. I'd count that, yes.
Because there's a couple like that are some of the covers and things like that.
I don't think cover songs count or anything like that. Okay. But yeah, so like unreleased Julien singles and like the singles off an album, we'll count those. Okay. We'll count those. So those are the ground rules in which we're gonna lay out. And I'm gonna hold on a second. Let's see if my notes saved, because I have my notes regarding this.
You have notes. I love that. I'm just on the fly here. I'm on the fly.
I do, and I legit tried to think about this last night. So I'm because if I had to, so that way I didn't come unprepared. So which I think is the first time ever that I am more prepared for you for anything, I think.
That might be true. I don't know. I'm sure some other examples exist.
All right, let's bring up the categories. Here we go. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start on the top, and we're gonna do those top 4 categories this week.
Okay.
Can you see them okay on our tiny little screens? If not, I can do this.
I got them. You might make it bigger just for the people.
There we go.
Yeah, because we're doing video episodes now, by the way. Good transition for me. That Spotify has allowed us to put the video directly on Spotify now. So it's still audio over on Apple Podcasts. So we're sorry, you're still gonna have to go to YouTube and watch us. But if you're on Spotify, you should be able to just click it and pull up the video along with it and just kind of watch along. Because I think that really helped last week. We got some new viewers, new people to the show, and we appreciate you. So
I like that. That's cool. So if you're a JB fan tuning in this week, welcome. As you probably figured out by now, we're big fans, so that's why we want to do this. Okay, so again, we're gonna do the top 4 categories here, and so we're gonna do a most underrated song, most overrated song, best lyric song, and most hype song. Those are our categories this week. Do you want to flip a coin or something to figure out who goes first?
Yeah, let me see. I really did think that I had like a dime. We can flip a guitar pick. I have picks here in the spirit of Julien Baker. All right, so this is a Dunlop .88 pick, which I believe is what Julien uses. So we've got a Dunlop side and we've got a branding side. There you go. We've got the specs. Do you want the gym side or the USA nylon side?
I'll take the USA side.
All right. There we go. All right, I'm first.
All right, there you go.
I'm Jim. I'm first. All right. Do I just get to pick a category?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're each gonna. Both of us are gonna pick each of these categories. But yeah, go ahead. You can pick what you want to start with.
Let's do maybe the softball one first. I'm gonna go into most hype song. And I do truly think that the most up-tempo album she's released is Little Oblivions, so I think it has to come from that. I think I've mentioned this before on the show, and there are a few songs that I would feel comfortable playing with other people in the car that they would not be concerned about my health and safety if they listen to the lyrics. And there's really only a handful, but most of them come off of Little Oblivions, and I have to give it to the title track, Hardline, because the second I hear that like synth in the beginning, it's on. And if I hear that song live, I might start levitating off the floor. So
that's a great pick. That's the pick that is, I think, the easiest pick to make. In fact, if you go to the JB Reddit, they've been like keeping track of this, and they've been like running polls every day, and they've been kind of doing a community choice of this as well. And that was the song that they picked. They picked Hardline. I went in a little bit different direction.
Okay.
If only because Julien herself has talked about how much she loves having crowds sing this song along with her at shows, even though the content of the song isn't necessarily the most hype in a way, right? So I'm going to go this might surprise you, but because JB says so, I'm going to pick it. So I'm going to go back to Sprained Ankle, and my pick for this is, I kid you not, is Everybody Does. It's Everybody Does.
I knew that was coming as soon as you said the people singing along to it. And I think that's hype from a crowd engagement perspective, and you got to respect the artist's wishes here. So I think that's a strong choice. That's strong justification.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you're next. Pick a category.
Okay. I think I'm going to go to best. I'm going to go to best lyrics.
Okay.
And
that's a complex pick. You could go in a lot of different directions.
It is. This was one of the, like, trying to pick this was so tough, and I hope my explanation for this makes sense, because I could have gone in so many directions.
Sure.
The JB Reddit has chosen "Happy to Be Here" as the best lyric song, which
I know you love that one.
You know how much I love "Happy to Be Here." Please put JB, if you're listening to this, please put "Happy to Be Here" on the set list.
Yeah, that's the one where Richie will start levitating. So
yes. Anyway, so my pick for best lyrics involves kind of the reasoning behind the song more so than the lyrics in amongst themselves. I picked "Claws in Your Back" for this. I picked "Claws in Your Back" because JB has talked about how this song is kind of a mirror to "Go Home" off of Sprained Ankle. And
yeah, it's the sort of antithesis of that play. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that idea of mirroring that journey for her, and I love this song too. Claws in Your Back is a great song. It's a great album closer. So for that reason, I take Claws in Your Back. However, I don't know if there's really a wrong choice here. This is like with most of these categories. We're gonna do most overrated song in just a second. That one is like almost impossible to pick. But so yeah, that's my pick for best lyrics.
Okay. I'm already preparing because I think I'm going maybe in a different direction than you for most overrated song, but we'll get there. Um hmm, I would say so I'm trying to do this on the fly, but I think that narrowing down to an album first helps me like I did with the first track. So I think some of her hardest hitting lyrics, I mean they're all hard hitting, but there's some that are off of Turn Out the Lights that are really lyric heavy and really dense. I think that's an album that stands out for me in terms of the lyricism, whereas like sonically Little Oblivions is very different. Um and maybe that takes the lead on that record, whereas it's very minimalist and very kind of stripped back and somewhat experimental compared to Sprained Ankle in Turn Out the Lights. It's a good happy medium in between those. But I think lyrically that's a very strong record, and I'm looking at the track list right now. That is so hard to pick. Well, obviously it can't be Over because that has no words, but I love that. I love an overture opener for an album. And the fact that it slides right into Appointments with like a little crossfade, I do love that. I think we have to note that.
Did we get a Beans? Did we get Beans on Over? Or is that a different song where Beans is credited? Is that on Little Oblivions? Maybe
I don't know. I don't remember. Look that up while
Beans. Yeah, Beans
while
is
I'm
credited
waxing
on the
poetic
song.
and deciding. I love that. Hmm. I mean, I think your choice is a really good choice, but I'm gonna go. Hmm, maybe I'm gonna give it to my first track of her. So I was back and forth. I initially said turn out the something from Turn Out the Lights. So either Appointments or Turn Out the Lights. I think those are both strong entries. Um, I love shadow boxing. I think I maybe got to give it to my first choice, which the first song that I heard from JB was Something, off of Sprained Ankle, and that's probably been the intro for a lot of people, but it was a lot of years ago, and it was before I really was following closely any of Julian's work before I think it was before I knew anything by Phoebe or by Lucy or by Boy Genius as a collective. If I go back and track my Spotify stats, it pops up I think in like 2017 or something for the first time. So I think I don't know, maybe it's that one because there's obviously something that kept me there that drew me into it, and it's very open and honest and vulnerable in a way, and it talks about a kind of loss that I think everybody's dealt with at some point in their lives where it's like somebody leaves despite your best efforts. Like people leave, not everybody stays forever. And it's very relatable in that way. And you can interpret it a lot of different ways, whether that's a permanent loss or a temporary loss or losing a friend or losing a family member or something like that. Um, but it's something I think it's easy to relate to, but it's presented in a way that it almost kind of cushions that blow to know that like somebody else has been through that and is able to articulate that sonically, be like we've all been there and we've all had this time, and here you can relate to that in this song and in these lyrics.
I 100% agree with you. That's a great song. I was listening to that song last night actually as I was going through some of these categories, and that was one of my options for I think one of these. I think it was I don't remember if it was for most underrated or for best lyrics. It was one of those two that I was like bouncing around, possibly putting on the list. Did not make the list, but good pick. Good pick. Okay, let's go back to the list here. Let's see what we
Back
got.
to the chart. All right.
Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, I'm gonna save this one. I'm gonna save this one for worst song later. We'll take this one off of most overrated, but we'll go backward. We'll just go to most overrated. There are no overrated songs in Julien's discography.
Dude, this is dude. I feel the exact same way.
There just aren't. Everything in here is good and deep and has meaning, and it's not. I feel like maybe this question is intended, like, it'd be so easy to answer this question for a lot of other artists. Like, and we have Clancy Tour coming up in like 2 weeks. If you asked me about this for 21 Pilots, I would say Stressed Out immediately for that, because it went to top 40 radio and it got overplayed, and it's in supermarkets and it's in a Hot Topic, and like you could go to Kroger on a Sunday morning and they'd be playing this song and nobody cares. Nobody's listening because it's there. If you're going to track down Julien Baker's solo work, you believe in the cause. And I think that there are no songs here that you could say are overrated, because they're all different and they're all deeply different, even though they might be on the same subject matter.
Yeah. So when I was going through and doing my research last night, I was like, dude, how do I go about trying to pick this? Because as you were kind of just explaining, in a way, JB's entire discography, all of it is really, really underrated. Her solo work, right? She's obviously won Grammys with Boy Genius, for the record, but her solo work, I don't know if you agree with me, but like all of it is completely underrated. If you go look at her Spotify stats, like she's the least listened to among Phoebe and Lucy, and then JB comes in third among the three members of Boy Genius. And so I would say that there really isn't an overrated song. I thought about maybe going to one of the like the singles that she's put out. I know Julien herself has said she's not a fan of Distant Solar Systems, like something like that, but even that isn't on an album. So I can't really count those because they're rated as where they should be, as kind of this extra bonus content that we're just lucky to have as an extra piece of content. So I kind of agree. Like there's no overrated songs in the JB discography. Now the JB Reddit, much to my chagrin, I think your chagrin too, honestly, their most overrated song.
First of all, they picked one.
They picked one. Exactly. They picked Favor. Favor was their pick for most overrated song. Which, like,
really?
Yeah.
Knowing the subject matter on Favor.
Yeah, that's what they picked. I was like, are you kidding?
That would be the absolute last song I would pick for that. I don't know. Maybe. Okay, so hold on. I'm gonna reverse engineer this here. If I go on Spotify and I look up her 10 most popular songs, okay. Number 1 is Appointments. Number 2 is Faith Healer. Number 3 is Turn Out the Lights. Number 4 is the Thick Skull Paramore remake. We can't count that one. 5 is Favor. 6 is Sour Breath. 7 is Go Home. 8 is Sprained Ankle. 9 is Something. 10 is Relative Fiction. The only and they don't even. She has 300,000 monthly listeners. We're not talking Taylor Swift numbers here. We're not even talking Chapel Roan numbers here. Okay. Mm-hmm. You could maybe put Faith Healer there if you wanted, because I don't think it's the strongest entry off of Little Oblivions, but it's still a good song. I don't know. That's impossible.
It truly is.
No comment.
Yeah, I'm trying to go. I'm reading the Reddit here, and I'm trying to see what people are saying. There's actually one of the top ones is Keep This One Blank.
Keep This One Blank, yes.
Other people, and there are people here saying Favor. There's Favor there.
I mean, I guess I could see it if we're looking at it from the perspective of the song that is maybe most known but least understood among fans of Boy Genius collectively, because they played that at their last tour circuit. So for anybody who that's their only introduction into JB's solo work and they didn't bother to go dig down and find anything else, I can maybe see where that's coming from, but I would absolutely never in a million years put that there.
No.
No.
Come on, JB Reddit. Come on.
And that invalidates the existence of the Favor, Graceland 2, Please Stay, Holy Trinity.
Mm-hmm.
We can't do that. We can't do that. No.
Okay. Let's move on to most underrated song.
Right.
And I think you know where I'm going with this one.
Maybe.
And for me, it's happy to be here. That was the one that I came to the quickest among these four categories. That was the one I knew it was going to be, was happy to be here. I adore that song. It's so good. It's on my like run playlist. Like if I go for a run and I have a playlist of Boy Genius songs and Julien Baker songs, and happy to be here is on the playlist, which is insane to me, but it's so good.
That is crazy to me. Oh, this one's hard. I'm going to give you multiple answers because the first thing I thought of here was The Modern Leper, which is the Frightened Rabbit cover. I love that song and I don't think it gets enough credit, and it's just really well done. And that's sort of a aside, right? It was
you and I were talking about that song not maybe I don't know, a couple months ago, because I had it on. It came on when I was driving somewhere, and I think I texted you and told you I was listening to either that song or another one of her covers I hadn't heard before, and I was like, this is so good.
That one, it could be the Manchester Orchestra collab, which is Bad Things to Good People, Bad Things to Such Good People. I also love that one, and I love Manchester Orchestra, so that goes together really well sonically. I'm also going to call out off of Little Oblivions, that I don't think that one of my favorites off that record is Crying Wolf, and I don't think that one gets quite so much credit. There's something about it that melodically it's got a very good hook on the chorus. For the record, it would not make that playlist of songs that people would not worry about my health and safety if I were to play it in a car with a group of people who are not in the loop. But sonically, that one doesn't get a lot of credit, and that record front to back has no skippable tracks. So I think you could say pretty much everything on there that's not Hardline, Heatwave, Favor, Relative Fiction probably gets buried on that list just because that's just the nature of it.
Yeah, and my other option for this was strictly because of the live performance of the song, which is Ringside.
That's a good one.
Yeah, how cool that's like. We've seen the footage of her playing that song live and how badass it is. How she performs that guitar lick live is sick. So I thought about
what else did we just see? Oh, for the new Fender campaign, we saw the full band Funeral Pyre. Also a great choice. And that's an awesome 7-inch record. That's the Funeral Pyre and Distant Solar Systems. That's a great one front to back.
Yep, I'd agree with that. There you go. So that's this week.
Right.
Next week we'll dive into more. Let's see. Next week we'll have, just so you get ahead of it, we have most emotional song, most genius song,
okay,
best chord song, and worst song. Oh, worst song is gonna be awful. Oh, Jesus.
Well, we have to sacrifice a victim. We had to do it this week for overrated. So
yeah.
This is maybe a deeper pain though, so we'll see.
Mhm. All right. Let's move on. It is now time to get to our Letterboxd edition of the show. We have plenty to talk about this week. I don't have my phone on me. I don't know what I did with it, so I can't pull up
Oh,
the
you'll hang on.
Letterboxd.
I can pull it up. All right, go ahead. What are we looking for? Are we
Okay,
looking
so
for rankings?
yeah, we'll start with the good here.
Okay.
Because Alien we talked about on the show last week about how excited I was to see Alien Romulus.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think last week we talked about how I had gone back and watched a lot of the Alien movies. So I watched Aliens, I watched Prometheus, I watched Alien Covenant, and I watched Alien a few months ago. So Alien Romulus. Um, I had really, really high expectations for this movie going in. I was so excited for it. I really, really dig the Alien franchise as a whole. And I gave it 3.5 stars for me. And I will tell you, I did like this movie, but I did not love it. And I think it was a victim of my expectations coming into this. Were so
I hate
high.
that. I
Yeah,
hate
I
that.
was
I
just,
hate that that's a thing now because that's what
mhm,
happened to me with Long Legs. That's happened to a lot of movies lately where they've just accumulated this massive hype train and then like
mhm.
been just okay.
Yeah. And so like this movie is generally good. And I think it will lend itself to rewatching multiple times because there are a lot of really cool parts of this movie that I liked, and even in hindsight, like, oh, that was a really cool scene. That was a really cool scene. And I like some of the ideas here, and I liked a couple of the characters and the performances, but ultimately, it just like didn't quite cross the finish line for me in terms of really being something different and and really changing the game like I maybe thought it could. Like I was really expecting a more of a Fede Alvarez style like slasher horror, and it just didn't quite get there for me. Like I just wasn't on the edge of my seat like I wanted to be for most of this movie. And it really only got there in the final 15 or 20 minutes or so where I was like, okay, this is cool. I'm liking this. I'm like kind of anxious at this point in time. But for the most part, the movie just didn't quite get there for me. So it like it sneaks in probably fifth for me in the Alien franchise, behind Aliens, Alien Covenant, Prometheus, and then Alien Romulus.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't
Mhm.
confirm or deny your decision, but I think that's sound reasoning if it truly is a 3.5 star. Um, let's talk about the one that I know that we don't agree at all about that you just logged last night, and this, I kid you not, made me irrationally angry. This was not a thing that I knew because you text me back. You were like, "Didn't you know this is one of my favorite movies?" I couldn't tell if that was sarcasm or not because I was just so blinded by my red mist, irrationally angry. Explain yourself.
So this was when did I watch this? I watched this on Saturday night because I was like super bored. I was like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure this happens to you all the time too, where you're just like in one of those moods where you don't really know like what TV show you're in the mood to watch, what movie you're in the mood to watch. You're just like, what do I watch? And I was like, there was nothing I could find on streaming that I wanted to check out. There wasn't a TV show. I've been like really going through and watching um that I wanted to finish watching or anything. So I was like, so I went to my Blu-ray shelf and I was like, I went through and I was trying to see like, okay, which of these movies would I be interested in watching? I was like, oh, you know what movie I haven't really seen in a while is The Last Jedi. And so I watched Star Wars The Last Jedi for the first time in probably, I don't know, a year and a half or 2 years or something like that. And I gave it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd. I absolutely adore this movie. I love it. It is truly outside of the original trilogy. I honestly believe it's my favorite Star Wars movie outside of the original trilogy. So I know a lot of people love Revenge of the Sith, and it's a great movie, and I like it too. But it's better than Revenge of the Sith. Like and every time I watch it, I think I like this movie more and more. I really do. I love Ryan Johnson as a writer and a director and what he did with that movie. And it was different, and it created something really interesting in the Star Wars lore that I think people just were not ready for at the time and still aren't ready for.
The only thing in that last 5 minutes that you just said that I agree with is that it was different. And not in a good way. Okay? Not in a good way. I have not seen this movie since it came out in theaters, and I probably won't, like, ever again. It was that bad. This movie is scrungly, mangy, gangly, sickly, no good, very bad, awful. It is, and part of that is because they let different directors tackle this trilogy. In theory, it should have worked because you get everybody that puts their different spin on it. In practice, this was almost designed to fail because from like a continuity and pacing and tone and just vision standpoint from director to director, it's all going to be different. And if you take the plot and the story and the character development that you set and you started in the first movie, which, like, albeit The Force Awakens, it was halfway fan service, but it was fine.
Yeah,
It
it
was a
doesn't
perfectly
hold up.
fun.
It doesn't
It was
hold
a
up.
perfectly
I
fun
have
movie though, and it was like
yeah.
an intro into this new trilogy, which is fine. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. But you took everything that we had set and all of those new routes, and then Ryan Johnson just took a bucket and threw it all out in the yard because he's like, well, we don't care, none of this matters anymore, so I'm gonna do what I think is cool. The whole thing is a mess. The pacing is so bad. There's like maybe 60 minutes of salvageable content sandwiched in a 150-minute runtime. It's too long. It's also too long. Dark Rey is a terrible storyline, and I hate it. We don't need to redeem Kylo Ren. I hate that, and I hated that they did that in Episode 9 as well. I
Yes,
don't care.
yes, but
He can kick
that's it.
rocks.
JJ Abrams. That's JJ Abrams. That's not Ryan Johnson. Did not
But
do
it
that.
started here.
No, I
It
disagree.
absolutely started here.
I disagree. Having rewatched the
Nope.
movie, that was not Ryan Johnson's intention. Was to make him good. It was always to show that the kind of dichotomy between the two characters, between Rey and, yes, it showed them both having gray, but eventually, because of the events of the movie, they both decide to go their own ways, and for Kylo becomes the true villain of the movie, and he learns that throughout this entire thing, and he learns that
Okay.
he wants that power, and that's why what corrupts him. That's why he kills Snoke. That's why he tries to get Rey over to his cause, and he doesn't. And then JJ Abrams goes and ruins it. I
So there's some suspension of disbelief required for the whole thing. It's Star Wars as a whole, right? Because you have to be like, there is this galactic magic called the Force, and some people can wield it, and there's lightsabers, and there's midichlorians, except we're scratching all the midichlorians, and those don't exist in the canon anymore. But then so overall there's a suspension of disbelief involved. My biggest gripe with this whole trilogy, and I think it's something that they started in The Last Jedi and then went a completely different direction. They absolutely nerfed the character development of all of our new big three.
Yes, I agree.
And they gave Leia some godlike power in this movie that does not make sense and has never been seen on this scale before and will never be seen again. She like floated, she was dead and then revived and then floated through space. And I get that it was fan service, and I love Carrie Fisher dearly and always will. That was stupid. And Laura Dern doesn't need to be in this movie. And Rose doesn't need to be in this movie. We have so many good existing acting characters, and we could have made their storyline so much more powerful if we had cared less about everybody's last name being Palpatine or Skywalker or Ren or Snoke or whatever the hell it is. Because Star Wars at its core works when your heroes are relatable and they can be just like us. That's why so many people love the scruffy hero like Poe or Han Solo or even Finn. There was so much potential for Finn's story to be like, I escaped the First Order and now I'm gonna lead people to the rebellion and the cause, and it didn't work because they threw Rose in there. And then Rey's whole thing was like, I'm a nobody. And then in this movie, they're like, your parents were nobodies. Oh, by the way, though, Palpatine. And then it's like
Yeah, see, your eyes are clouded by Rise of Skywalker ruining everything. I think that's what's happening here because you haven't seen the movie.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true because the whole pacing of the story doesn't work from frame one, because literally the title card opens and it's like the First Order reigns. You're like, where, why, when did this happen? Because every other time I saw the First Order on screen, they were getting their galactic butts handed to them. But then somehow in between that movie and this one, they're the number one power in the universe, because every time they're on screen, they don't look that serious to me. Snoke doesn't look that serious to me. Palpatine is not that serious. Kylo Ren sucks. I'm sorry. I hate him. He's the worst villain ever. I grew up on Darth Vader. Eat trash. Eat cosmic trash. I'm so sick of him.
See,
this movie sucks.
Again, here's the thing. Rewatch it and give it a second go.
No,
give it a go.
I don't own this movie, nor I will never own this movie. I would rather cancel my Disney Plus subscription than watch this movie ever again. I'm so serious.
There are things, Grant, I agree. There are things about this movie that aren't perfect and don't really work for me, obviously. But that's with any movie. But and things could have been done better, and then you have a 5 out of 5 movie, in my opinion. But there are just it's for the part of the reason why I love this movie, and I think this is the biggest reason why people don't like this movie, is I love what Rian Johnson did with Luke's character. Because
I hated it. There are so many plot holes in Luke's character. I think even Mark Hamill says he's like,
Hamill hated it. Yeah.
I don't really want to do this movie. Yep.
He hated it. But first of all, he's the best part of the movie. He gives the best performance in the movie, hands down. And that's why the movie works for me, because I love this idea that, listen, you're not always going to be the same person you were when you were 20 years old, because he was 20. He was 20 at the end of Return of the Jedi. He's not that same. You're never going to be that same person you were at 20 that you are 40 years later. You're not, especially after he
just shows up, levitates some rocks, and then vanishes into a Force ghost. What is there to talk about? There's so many plot holes with Luke in this movie that it doesn't make sense.
There isn't. I promise you, there is not. It's a terrific arc that he comes to terms with with everything he's been through at the end of the movie, and it's
not a worthwhile sacrifice. It's almost as bad as what they did to Harrison Ford, although Harrison Ford didn't want to make another Star Wars movie, so he was like, please get me out of here. But that's almost as bad as what they did to Harrison Ford, where they just threw him to their new Darth Vader and said, kill him. For what? For what? That didn't advance anything. It just made his sacrifice wasn't worth it.
I can kind of agree with that. But again, I think that's why people were so mad about this movie to this day, is for exactly what you're saying, is they just didn't buy the Luke Skywalker arc, and I did. And that, to me, that is the entire crux of this conversation, is if you bought the Luke arc, then you're in on this movie. If you didn't buy the Luke arc, then you were out on this movie. I love the Luke arc. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it took a character in a completely new direction that we had never seen before. That was it was fascinating. And rewatching it back, I thought the same exact thing. And so I will go to my grave believing that The Last Jedi, just like okay, this is the last thing. We'll wrap everything up here. The prequels, for the longest time, were dumped on by the entire fan base.
That's true. And I still think that they're just okay, but they were necessary to the story.
Yeah. You and I, we were young at the time. I was 8 years old when Phantom Menace came out. And so those movies were kind of made for people my age, your age as well, in a way. And so those of us who grew up on it, I loved all of those movies when I was a kid. I loved the Phantom Menace. I had trading cards, I had toys, I had stickers on my bedroom wall of Darth Maul from the Phantom Menace. I love that movie. And the adults in the room didn't really like it. But since then, in the 20 years plus onward, 25 years since Phantom Menace has come out, Like those movies have taken on gained a new appreciation by a lot of the fans, except for Attack of the Clones, which is terrible and I hate, and yeah.
That one's okay. That one's okay.
But yeah, like Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith are legit good Star Wars movies. And I
Revenge of
don't
the
care what
Sith
anybody.
is a good Star Wars movie. That was
Yes.
my first Star Wars movie,
Mhm.
and then Darth Vader quickly became my favorite character, which was a questionable choice. but just that was what I grew up on, and then eventually I got the box set, which was the original trilogy. So it was what is now 4, 5, 6, and then years later went back and watched 1 and 2, and I never really hated 1 and 2. They weren't in the same vein as the original ones, and I would put some of the spin-offs above 1 and 2 in terms of like enjoyment. Like I would put Rogue One far above either of the first two, just in terms of like enjoyment. That is one thing that I will give the new batch of Star Wars films, including The Last Jedi. Visually, that movie was pretty good. There were a few like really standout moments from a visual perspective in that movie. It's just a shame that all of that got lost with some storytelling that was just okay. But I think like that throne room fight scene visually was super cool, and where they had all the walkers, the AT-ATs out in the field, and it kicks up the red dust every time one of the speeders goes by or whatever it is. They had some bits in there that could have been really great, but they sort of got lost in the muddy rest of it. I don't know. That's one thing I'll give it, is it still looks good. It still looks good despite how rough the story was, in my perspective.
And are you in general? Are you a Rian Johnson fan? I know you liked Poker Face. I'm a big fan. I loved Looper. Looper was terrific.
Never saw
And
it. I don't think I'm that familiar with the rest of his work, or if I am, I don't know it.
and then I obviously the Knives Out and Glass Onion. I'm a big fan of those as well. So I'm a big fan of Rian
I
Johnson
didn't
in
like
general.
Glass Onion. Knives Out was fine. Knives Out was fine, but it was all because we just wanted Chris Evans' sweater in that film. Looks really soft. That's that cable knit sweater that we've all been searching for since When Harry Met Sally. That's like the revival of the soft cream colored fisherman's cable knit sweater. Yeah.
So maybe that's the part of it. Maybe
Maybe that is.
you're just aren't into Rian Johnson, and that's fine. That's okay.
Maybe. I think that the whole thing was maybe not, it wasn't well thought out about what splitting that trilogy between different directors would do to the tone and pacing of the whole thing. I don't know.
No, actually, I tend to agree. I think that was its biggest downfall. I wonder if J.J. Abrams had done all three. Obviously, he was telling a completely different story than what Rian Johnson was trying to tell, and that was the downfall of the entire thing. Like if you look at Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker
They
as
fit.
sequels to each
They
other,
fit.
they make
Yep.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to what J.J. Abrams was trying to do, but when you put the Last Jedi in there, nothing makes sense.
I'll also say they did Rey dirty with that whole "what's your lineage" arc. I'm going to go on my soapbox for just 1 minute before we'll wrap this up. But the perfect ending for Rey, in my opinion, and this is something I've legit thought about since the release of the last movie. So we're at the end. We're at the end of it all. We've seen her journey from start to finish from what's the name of her home planet?
Jakku.
Jakku. There you go.
Not Baku.
Not the Formula One track. Jakku. There you go. I was close. So she comes from nothing. I mean, really, she comes from nothing. She hasn't known her parents, and then we go on this whole joyride of she's nobody. She comes from nobody, and she's trying desperately to find out what this is. She comes from nobody, and then she's a Palpatine, and then at the end, when that villager comes by and asks her, and they're like, "Who, Rey? Who?" and she says, "Rey Skywalker." That made me want to throw my popcorn across the movie theater. I get it. I get that you're like the new adopted savior of the galactic, but that goes back to my prior point, which is we relate best to the characters that we see ourselves in. And I think it would have been a more perfect arc for her to go full circle and come back to her roots. So she's in the planet, she's burying the lightsabers in the sand, and she says, Rey who? And she says, just Rey. Because that's the way that she introduced herself. It would have been so full circle for her character arc. And like, I don't need this attachment and this lineage because I've gone on this journey and I've found myself and my power and who I am. And
I agree.
I don't need this.
So much better.
I hated that part. Among other things, but that was one of my biggest things. I was like, you're going to leave us on that? And it's the thing that would have been the easiest to fix if you would have just put your head in the script from the original and been like, I don't know who my parents are. Maybe they're coming back, but I am who I am, and I've done what I've done.
Genius. So much better. And we are getting Rey again, by the way. They've announced that we're going to get another Rey movie at some point in the future.
I love Daisy Ridley in those. She was great.
I don't know when that's supposed to come out. Hang on, let me see. New Rey Star Wars movie, or who's directing it? I don't even know. Let's see. Okay, let's see here. 5 new Star Wars movies announced. Okay, let's see. This is great. I have to read through this entire story to figure out when it's coming out.
You can't just hit like jump to recipe.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's what I'm looking for?
James Mangold has a new movie coming out with Star Wars. That's pretty cool. I like that. Dave Filoni, he's got new Mandalorian movie. Here we go. Rey will return in Charmin Obaid-Chinoy's Star Wars movie. The third and final new Star Wars movie announced will focus on the future. Obaid-Chinoy's movie will take place after the rise of Skywalker.
Okay.
I would hope so. Set 15 years after the ultimate defeat, trying to build a new Jedi Order. So, I'm not familiar with this filmmaker, but so anyway, we will get more Rey on our screens.
If you want some good heads in the production and writers room, we're available, guys.
Right?
We have some good ideas. We feel strongly about this character.
Oh, Charmin was director of Ms. Marvel.
Oh,
TV show. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well done. That's one of the few of that absolute grotesque run of Disney Plus Marvel series that was like tolerable. Yeah. So we'll see about that.
I'd agree with that. All right, everybody. We've gone on long enough, as always. I told you before the show that we might actually get this done in under an hour, and we didn't because we never do. Yeah,
we could have. I went off a little bit at the end.
It's okay. It was
episode 7, the beef awakens at the end there, and I just
I didn't mean to trigger you with my Letterboxd, but I seem to do this on way too often now. So
I don't agree with the way that you rate any of your movies. At its core, I deeply believe that you misunderstand the system.
I'm going to say this again. I do not like the 5-star ratings on Letterboxd. It needs to be out of 10, so there's more differentiation.
I don't like 5 unless it's perfect, and there are very few things that are perfect.
Yeah, exactly. But should be more differentiation between a 3.5, which is 7, and a 4, which is an 8. There needs to because that's where a lot of movies lie, is between that 7 and 8 range. And I want to rate a movie 7.5, but I can't do that. I want to rate a movie 7.7.
So just do it in the comments. Make your own out of 10 rating system and do it in the comments.
I'm just going to make my own Letterboxd. How about that? Just be a business entrepreneur and make Letterboxd, but make it out of 10. I don't know what I'm going to call this. If you'd like to invest.
I don't know, because we still haven't named this segment after 32 episodes.
Hello, Sharks. I am asking $10,000 for 70% investment in my company, wherein it's exact same as Letterboxd, but you rate it out of 10 instead of 5. Mark Cuban, what say you?
Mark Cuban, Indiana Hoosier. Well, the biggest issue I have with your proposal is that you gave The Last Jedi 4.5 out of 5 stars, and for that reason, I'm out.
And so are we on this episode. Thanks for listening and watching, everybody. Follow us at OHOBC Pod on all of your social media endeavors. Until next week, we bid you goodbye, adios, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.